Espacio Menos Uno, I showed 3 video installations, so-called Psst. And then I have an excerpt of a video installation, The Glee Club, which is from 2008, and this is a very new one from this year.
Mm-hmm.
And then the third work is The Conversation, which is absolutely the recent work, the most recent work I have done. The work, the idea was born during my artisan residency in Turku, Finland this year. I spent almost 2 months there. And the background is our environment is filled with so much noise, so much pollution of any kind, not only the environmental pollution, but also pollution in the sense of too much noise, too much information, too much images. The other idea behind this work was to whom the public space belongs today. The public space, I think, doesn't belong to us anymore. Government, politicians, big corporations, they decide what kind of information to put and what kind of advertising, how to organize the traffic, how to organize your life in the city. So nowadays, big cities are more or less the streets, the squares, are just means for moving your body from point A to point B or C, but not using it as a common space to sit, to chat, to have fun together. And especially in the Nordic countries in Europe, it's more and more like that. So I wanted to involve the people living in Turku somehow to give them voice, to give them presence in their public space. And the idea is to let them appear on the big digital screen in the central square of Turku, and with the gesture of keep your mouth shut up, keep silence, to influence the public life. This project here is again collaboration with people, but these are my former neighbors from Berlin. I lived a few years in a quarter, in a part of the city called Spasova. So we had a huge, beautiful garden, and neighbors and children used to communicate very often by shouting over the garden from balcony to balcony. And also a lot of birds around us. So suddenly I got this idea to present those people communicating with each other, but with the voices of the birds. So everybody got a little porcelain bird, and stayed in front of my camera performing songs, bird songs. And here I show only 2 portraits of total 14. The portraits, their performances are not synchronized. They play with different lengths, and then in between different lengths of black screen and silence, which means when I present the whole installation of 14 portraits, the variation is practically endless of the sound composition.
Absolutely. No.
The third work, The Conversation. This is work based on only 2 words, yes and no. And my thought was that actually yes and no as a word, but also as a form of thought, is the most common, the most used by us humans. Every day we use these 2 words millions of times. Shall I take a cup of milk or a cup of coffee? Shall I say hello to this person or not? Shall I take the subway or the tram or a taxi? These two possibilities, yes and no, we juggle with them, we play with them, we use them continuously. And the video performance was shot at the Virginia Center for Creative Arts last year, where I had also artists in residency. I asked the people, I explained the idea and I asked them if they would like to participate. So on the decided day and hour they appeared, these 7 people, and I led them to choose their place around the table. I put on the camera and it was pure improvisation, without any rehearsal, without anything. They were allowed to use only these 2 words, yes and no, and to imagine some subject of this conversation, but never to tell their neighbors. Funny enough, yesterday at the opening, I showed this work here at Menos Una for the first time. There were people who were trying to interpret and to imagine, to guess the subject of this conversation, of those yes and no. And it was really interesting to hear different opinions and different stories. So I think this work is really very rich in meaning, because it leaves the possibility to create the meaning of the work open to everybody who looks at it. So in this way I have one idea, but the work gets richer and richer by the audience, because everybody contributes with a new meaning, with a new interpretation of this work. I think that the experience of the work goes in both ways. Generally, I think I find, or to me, language is a big mystery, because language, whatever language you speak, with another human, it's all the time full of misinterpretations, misunderstandings. So how do we understand each other? Although we misunderstand each other all the time, but somewhere we succeed to understand each other. So communication is not only language, spoken, verbal language, but it's also body language, smell, aura around us. There are so many other ways to communicate. Plus, I think language's words are very much corrupted. If you follow the history of any word, maybe it meant something 100 years ago, nowadays it means completely different. So how do we understand a writer reading a book using certain words which obviously meant things different, slightly different, or maybe completely different 100 years ago or 200 years ago? To me it's also a mystery. All my work is based on the subject of communication and interaction with people. And art itself is a way of communicating ideas, but non-verbal, with the power of image, with the power of sound, the power of body. If you show a sculpture or make physical installation, you communicate ideas. And these recent 3 works, they really go to this point of communication, interaction with people, and creating a new language.